Welcome to Story Sale English. Today, let's dive in. In the world of Dream of the Red Chamber, Xiren is one of the most important and unforgettable maids, gentle, loyal, thoughtful, and deeply connected to Jia Baoyu's life. Through her quiet care, hidden feelings, and painful fate, we can see both the warmth and the sadness of the great Jia family. My name was not Xiren at first. I was born into a poor family, and because life was hard, I was sold when I was young. Later, I entered the great Jia household. At first, I served the old lady, grandmother Jia. My old name was Pearl, but after I was sent to serve Baoyu, he changed my name to Xiren because my family name was Hua. And he liked the line, "The fragrance of flowers touches the person." That was how I became Xiren. From then on, my whole heart slowly turned toward one person only, Jia Baoyu. To someone outside, I may have looked like only a maid, but in that house, serving Baoyu was not a small thing. He was the precious son of the family, loved by his grandmother, protected by his mother, and watched by everyone. He was clever, warm, and full of feeling, but he did not love the path the family wanted for him. He disliked serious study, disliked official ambition, and loved only girls, poetry, beauty, and tenderness. Many people spoiled him. I worried for him. I was not like some others who only laughed with him and let him do whatever he wished. I loved him, but because I loved him, I feared for him. If he stayed forever like a child of dreams, one day he would be hurt by the world, and then it would be too late. So even when I was gentle, I often tried to guide him. I reminded him to read, to be careful, to respect his father, and to think of the future. Sometimes he listened, sometimes he only smiled. When I first began to stay near him, we were both still young. In that beautiful and dangerous house, feelings often became confused. He trusted me more than the others. I knew his habits, his moods, what made him laugh, and what made him sink into silence. I knew when he was pretending to be careless, and I knew when his heart was truly troubled. In time, I became the person who watched over his tea, his clothes, his sleep, his medicine, and even his secrets. Many people in the house saw that I was different from the other maids. It was not because I was the prettiest. It was because I was steady. I could hold things inside. I could bear worry without crying aloud. I could think before speaking. In a rich family, this matters. In a dangerous family, it matters even more. There were many girls around Baoyu. Some were proud, some sharp, some lively, some tender. Among them, Dayu was the one closest to his heart. I knew that. I could see it in the way he spoke to her, worried over her, and grew quiet around her. I was not blind and I was not foolish. I also knew that Baoyu's heart was too wide and too soft. He could care deeply for one person, then grieve for another, then pity another, all in the same day. And to love such a person was never peaceful. Still, I stayed. One important turning came when Baoyu was beaten badly by his father. Everyone around him was frightened, but I was frightened in a deeper way. I knew this was not only pain on his body. This was a warning from the world he had long refused to face. When Lady Wang, his mother, questioned me in private, I spoke more boldly than I had ever spoken before. I told her that although it hurt to say it, perhaps it was not entirely bad for him to be corrected. If he were never controlled, what would become of him? Lady Wang was deeply moved. She said my heart was the same as hers. From that day, she trusted me far more than before. After that, my place in the household quietly rose. Lady Wang did not announce it loudly, but her actions showed her meaning. She arranged money for me differently from the other maids. She treated me less like an ordinary servant and more like someone who might remain with Baoyu for a very long time. Others understood what that meant, even if no one always spoke it clearly. But honor in such a household was never pure happiness. The higher I rose, the more careful I had to be. I could no longer act as freely as before. I had to guard my words, my face, even my nearness to Baoyu. As I grew older, I became more reserved. At night, when once I might have sat close and spoken softly, I became more distant. Partly this was because I wanted to protect both him and myself. Partly it was because I knew the house was full of eyes, ears, suspicions, and gossip. And partly it was because my health was not strong. I had already coughed blood once, and after that I understood that life and youth could break more easily than people think. The years in the garden seemed soft from the outside, but underneath fear was growing. The family looked grand, yet trouble was entering from every side. Quarrels, secrets, jealousy, waste, punishment, and decline were all quietly gathering. One by one, the bright girls around us met sorrow. Some were driven away, some died, some were married into misery, some lost all hope. I watched it happen. It made me even more anxious for Baoyu. When the search of the garden came and suspicion fell everywhere, the air changed forever. Nothing felt safe after that. No box, no room, no relationship, no old happiness remained untouched. I did my best to stay calm, to open my things and let them be searched, to keep order where I could. But in truth, I felt what many others felt. The old days were ending. Then worse things came. Baoyu's jade was lost. To others it was a precious object. To us it was more than that. It was tied to his life, his spirit, and the strange fate people believed had followed him since birth. When it disappeared, I was terrified. I searched everywhere with cold sweat all over me. I tried not to let the whole house know at once, because once fear spreads in a great family, it turns into chaos. But the fear could not be hidden for long. Baoyu himself drifted into confusion and pain. I, too, felt that disaster was already at the door. Then came the darkest blow of all. Dayu died, and Baoyu was married to Baochai through deception. By then, nothing in that house felt clean anymore. Duty and sorrow were tied together. Silence hurt more than crying. Baoyu was no longer the same. His mind wandered, his heart seemed broken open, and all the old dreams of youth turned to ashes. And what was I to do then? I had stayed beside him for years. I had cared for his clothes, his sleep, his illness, his fear, his moods, and his secret griefs. I had thought that if I kept serving him faithfully, perhaps I could stay to the end. But fate does not ask servants what they want. It does not even ask masters. One day, my brother's wife came in and brought news of a marriage arrangement. Lady Wang approved it. The man was from the Jiang family in the south of the city. He had property, shops, and a good reputation. Everything was arranged carefully. When I heard it, my heart broke. I did not dare openly resist Lady Wang, but inwardly I felt only grief. I remembered that once, when Baoyu had visited my home long ago, he had said he would never let me truly leave him. Now all those old words felt like wind. I thought if I stay, people will blame me. If I go, it is not my wish. I even thought of death. Yet I could not die in the Jia house and turn Lady Wang's kindness into trouble. I could not die in my brother's house and bring ruin on him either, so I endured. I returned home, crying but saying little. My brother showed me the betrothal gifts. Everything had already been decided. I still hoped for some escape, but there was none. On the wedding day, I was carried away in sorrow. At my husband's house, something happened that startled me deeply. The family treated me not like a cast-off maid, but like a proper wife. They called me mistress. They had prepared things with care and respect. Even then my heart was not at peace. I still thought of death. So on the wedding night I wept and would not yield, but the man I had married did not force me cruelly. He was gentle. The next day, when the boxes were opened, he saw a red handkerchief and understood that I had once belonged to Baoyu's household. Then he took out another handkerchief, one Baoyu had once exchanged in old days. Only then did I realize that this man was Jiang Yuhan, the very same actor who had once shared a strange old connection with Baoyu. In that moment, I felt both shock and helplessness. It was as if a thread tied years ago had finally pulled tight. He too felt shame and tenderness when he understood who I was. After I told him my sorrow, he did not press me harshly. Instead, he treated me with even more gentleness and respect. People may say this was fate, maybe it was. In the great dream of that family who truly escaped fate. If you ask me who I was, I would say this: I was not the brightest girl in the garden. I was not the proudest. I was not the most poetic nor the most unforgettable, but I was faithful. I gave my whole heart to service, first to the old lady, then to Baoyu. When I served, I did not know how to serve halfway. I worried for him more than I worried for myself. I wanted him to live, to be safe, to stand firm in a world that was already breaking apart. I could not save him, I could not save the house, I could not save the girls. In the end, I could not even keep my own life in the form I had once imagined. That is why my story is painful. Not because I loved loudly, but because I endured quietly. Not because I was chosen, but because even being trusted, valued, and almost promised still could not protect me. In the beginning, I was sold because my family was poor. In the middle, I was cherished because I was useful and loyal. In the end, I was married away because the old order had collapsed, and no one could hold the past together any longer. This was my life. I was Xiren. I lived in fragrance, tears, duty, and silence. And like so many women in that house, I was carried forward by love but never allowed to belong fully to it.